Good evening. Good evening and welcome to our meeting this evening. It is Monday, March 19th, and we are actually continuing our meeting. We've just come out of executive session, and we have some special guests with us this evening that I'd like to have come and introduce themselves. We have a Boy Scout troop here. If you'd like to come up to the podium, just introduce yourselves and tell us why you're visiting.
Hi, I'm Brayden, and I'm working on a mayor badge, and I'm from Wyndham, and I'm from Troop 805.
Hi, I'm Cameron, I'm from Wyndham, and I'm working on the same merit badge.
Hi, I'm Joey, I'm from Wyndham, Troop 805, and I'm doing citizenship in the community merit badge.
I'm Nathaniel, and I'm from Wyndham, and I'm doing the citizenship in the community merit badge.
I'm Jack, I'm from Standish, and I'm doing communications merit badge.
I'm Brian, and I'm from Standish, and I'm doing community merit badge too.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for visiting. We hope you enjoy attending our meeting this evening. So first on our agenda, we have the presentation of the amended 2018-19 district school calendar. And this evening we have Christine Hessler, who's going to be presenting information.
Yes, thank you for having me again. There was one mistake on our calendar last time we met that you voted upon. We didn't realize that Martin Luther King Day was actually later in the year than it traditionally has been, so we made that adjustment on our calendar. We also checked with the high school, and we've moved the second quarter ending date to January 25th, and that's reflected on the calendar that was sent to you earlier. I do have copies here if anybody would like to see that. The other change on the calendar is in November. On November 6th, due to the election, there will be no school for students at Wyndham High School or at Jordan Small Middle School. And both principals will be adjusting their schedules at the end of the year to make sure the students have the correct number of days and the staff have the correct number of hours. Because of safety concerns at both buildings and community coming in to vote, we want to make sure that our students are kept safe, and that's the addition to the calendar.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? No. Okay. And if I could have a motion.
I move to approve the amended 2018-2019 district school calendar.
Second. All those in favor? All those opposed? No two. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Christine. Okay, we also have a couple of appointments this evening. If I could have a motion.
I move to approve the following appointments for the 2017-18 school year. Benjamin Williamson, grade 7 teacher, Wyndham Middle School, BA, at a yearly salary of $36,145, prorated to $14,056. And Laura Grace, school psychologist at Wyndham Middle School, PhD/CAS, yearly salary at $54,975, prorated to $14,354.
Second.
Any questions on that or any information you can provide, Sandy? Okay. All right. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. Now we'll proceed with Mr. Sandy Prince, our superintendent, who will be presenting the 18-19 budget.
Okay, well, it's a great opportunity once a year to be before the public to present the upcoming FY19 school budget. First of all, I'd like to compliment Don Davis, our finance assistant superintendent, who is really instrumental with developing the budget, and he's been very busy this year with the budget. Along with our administrative team, we spend countless hours weekly looking at the budget and making modifications. So I'm pleased to be here tonight to present the budget. And this budget is online on our website, so the public can look at this. I would encourage the public as well to attend any public hearings that we have with the budget. It's an opportunity to really learn each cost center and what's in each budget within the schools and the departments. So first of all, with any proposed budget, what is essential? And I would argue that building a vision before building a budget. RSU 14 has had a long history of having a strategic plan, and I think that's really important before you look at any type of budget, that you know where your money's going, what's important, what's essential, what's going to really make changes within the district. And I think a 5-year strategic plan certainly is in place and can drive the budget as proposed. RSU 14 strategic plan has a district vision, and in that vision, I'm not going to read the whole slide, but basically every student in our school will be actively engaged in authentic, meaningful work. Students will have the opportunity to explain their work, to be in charge of their learning, and students will learn in technology-rich environments. Again, this is our district vision. We always hold this up to the work that we're doing and where we're going. Strategic plan also has a long-term goals, and in those goals we have 3 goals. Again, I will not bore you by reading all the detail, but the first goal is about teaching and learning, design for learning. Again, we want students to be engaged and to really be in charge of their learning. The second one is the environment for learning. Very important that the environment is conducive for students to learn, all students. And third of all, technology is very important as we think about our students and how they learn for the future. How do we get to accountability? And the accountability slide here is our budget is a tangible translation of the strategic plan, the mission and vision, into a practical action plan for high student achievement. So again, my purpose here is when we talk about accountability and we talk about our strategic plan, the budget is very, very much an integral part of that piece. Tonight, what I'd like to do is talk about the 4 areas: budget challenges, American values for public education. We have some recent data as far as what the public values in public education. I think we certainly have good value within the RSU, and I'd like to share that, and then drill down to what the budget is proposed as. Biggest challenges right now that you probably aren't aware of, because you might not know what the research says, or you perhaps do, but I'd like to show you that right now, according to the PDK research journal, which is probably one of the most instrumental public opinion collection of data from our public on K through 12 education. It's a journal that I look at often, and it comes out frequently to talk about what the public values. And as you can see on the slide, probably no surprise, but lack of funding is the #1 issue nationally, according to the 2007 data, that lack of funding for public schools. That's not to say that lack of good teachers, violence, and drugs are other priority areas, but the lack of funding is certainly #1 priority. How does Maine compare to when it comes to school funding? In this slide, pretty much all the states that are in the red, there are 29 states that are still providing less total school funding per student than they were in 2008. Again, I want to stress, Maine is in that column of 29 states, and there's less total funding per student than back since 2008. If you look at from 2008 to 2015, we're down 9% with school funding per student in the state of Maine. And if you also look at the New England states, Maine's pretty much behind most of the New England states. Let's look at another trend. Our subsidy challenges within the district. We're looking at, actually, when the RSU came together, FY 2009, so we've been together 11 years. And you can see on the right column, the increases and the decreases with the subsidy from the state. This year alone, if you look at FY 19, we're down just about 1.2 million with state subsidy. So coming out of the gate, we're getting less money from the state than we had hoped. In fact, the last 3 years, if you look at the right column on the bottom, the last 3 years, we've had less state subsidy. So that's a challenge for us. On the orange box at the bottom, if you look at FY09, our subsidy, and then FY19 subsidy, we're down about 1.5 million. So, not to whine, not to complain, but these are true challenges when you build a budget. More challenges. Overhead fixed costs, no surprise. HR resources, facility maintenance, natural gas, electricity comes over just about 2% a year. Those are fixed costs that you just have to build into the budget. You have to build that in knowing that those increases are going to be there. In the past history, we've been faced with some challenges. With the Maine teacher retirement system, we've picked up a significant amount of money to offset that. The state of Maine pushed that back onto the local school systems. That's just under $900,000. Maine PERTS makes up 1.8% of our total budget. System administration has gone from $135 per pupil to $92 per pupil. There's been a big push in the state to look at system administration. No surprise to us. And that's the one cost center that has gone down, I would say, throughout the state. So when money shifts from the state EPS, subsidy requires higher local property taxes, unfortunately. In addition to that, that's not on the slide, I just learned yesterday that in 2020, July 1, all districts in the state of Maine will be financially responsible for the child development services for educating 3 to 5 year olds. Right now, CDS, another organization, has paid for that in the past. We're the only state in the country that school systems have not, all other school systems in the state pay for 3 to 5 year olds. Well, that's going to happen now in the state of Maine. Personally, I think it's good, but it's another expenditure that we're going to have to face as we build next year's budget a year out from now. Budget challenges. Again, I mentioned the superintendent's data. In 10 years, we've reduced the number of full-time positions by 26, and we've increased part-time superintendents by 5. If you look in the total annual expenditures, 2014-15 system administration was just over 66%. In 2004-05, it's gone up to 69.5%. So the expenditures, again, I think it's important to acknowledge that system administration has gone down for the most part. It's 3% of the total budget, K through 12. And it's been down 4% in the last 10 years. And again, it's the only cost center to see a decrease. In addition to the right column on the right there on the right-hand side, if you look at our neighboring states, Maine per student overall spending is ranked lowest in New England. Now what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the values towards public education. Again, this comes from the PDK journal, and the national data talks about more Americans give top grades to public schools. 47% of Americans completely or are somewhat satisfied with the quality of a K through 12 education. That's up 4 points from 2016. The number of Americans who give their communities public schools an A is at its highest in more than 40 years of PTK polling. You know, the demands of education go beyond the 3 R's. In this next slide, it is about reading, writing, and arithmetic, but also the public is telling us that they want their child and their children to have direct career preparation, to think about the future and to be educated so that they can make good choices. Secondly, they very much value interpersonal development relationships. That they value that as an important skill, a life skill, to get along with other people and have those interpersonal skills. In addition to that, Americans still value the traditional academic preparation, especially in advanced academic studies. Let's talk about aspects of school quality. What's extremely important, very important to the public, is interpersonal skills first, technology and engineering classes second, advanced academic classes is third, art and music classes are fourth, extracurricular activities fifth, and standardized tests is at the bottom as far as priority of those areas. Factors in school quality. This is a pie graph just to kind of show you again what is most important according to the public, what they value. Certainly the technology and engineering classes, advanced academic classes, art and music, extracurricular, teach cooperation and respect, and certainly standardized tests. Still is valued, but not as much as the other areas. Good value within the organization is probably my favorite part to talk about because I'm just incredibly passionate about the good work. The best thing about my job, I really have a helicopter view within the district. I get to see all the schools and all the good work that's going on, and I can tell you that I feel we really have a good value within the RSU 14. Do you think our per pupil cost is higher or lower compared to the state average? Well, in this graph it shows that we are actually lower than the state average per pupil cost. And you can associate per pupil costs with academic performance. It's not necessarily just the only thing that can make schools better places, but certainly you got to have some money per pupil to do the things that you want to do. If you look at Cumberland County, we're pretty much almost at the bottom. But I think we do a very good job for what we are given to build a budget and provide within the organization. Do you think we're above or below the state average with system administration? In this slide it shows that the state average for system administration is 3.11%. RSU 14 is 2.72%. And it also compares us to other districts within Cumberland County. So again, I think we're getting a very good value for the amount of money that we're provided with. Good value. I was so impressed when we had the students, the fifth graders from Jordan Small Middle School, present to the school committee. The students won a trip to Washington, D.C. for finishing 8th place out of 400 teams across the country in the annual stock market game. Talk about teamwork, talk about collaboration, talk about traveling, life-changing for these students to really show the good work that they did and to present it, their work in front of a board. I think that's about student engagement. And you can see the smiles on their faces, and they were so proud that night when they presented to the board. Very good value. Do you think we're above or below the average with graduation rate in the state of Maine? We're right on the top compared to Cumberland County. Again, kudos to the high school and the staff, administration. We work really hard to get that graduation rate up there. And the state average is 87.5%. Again, we beat Bangor, South Portland, Portland High, Massapequa, Sanford, Oxford Hills, Auburn Bonnie Eagle, Lewiston. These are the biggest high schools in the state. So that's really good news. Our budget, our proposed budget. We're asking just over $47 million. That's up just about over $2 million, and that's about a 4.88% increase. I want to emphasize that this is a budget process, that this could change as we go through the budget presentations. This amount could get lower, just as we begin to really understand the budget and you make decisions. We always refine the budget as we go before it goes before the public. So this is a process, and it's not a done deal at this point in time. Let's look at our historical perspective of the budgets. The average budget for RSU 14, I'm at the very bottom of this page, 25. The average budget for RSU 14 from 2009 to 2018 has increased an average of 1.65%. 1.65%. Again, we appreciate the money that we get. We also want to show the good value that we're doing given the money that is given to us. This is a historical perspective, again, since we've consolidated. Well, actually, 9-10 was the first year of consolidation. And you can see the increases and the decreases and the percentage changes over the years. How is the budget allocated? Let's talk about that. This is a pie chart just to show you where the money goes. Majority of the money, I would say, goes to instruction, which it should. And then we have many other services within the district. And I have to say, I'm proud of our transportation department, our school nutrition program. We've got some wonderful people working for us that are really centered on what's doing right for students. Is a trend with the state funded and going up and down? What is the state trend as we look at the money? Coming out of the gate, RSU 14 will have less state funding than the amount allocated for FY18. If you look at FY19 and you look at FY18, we're down about 1.1 million. That comes out to 7.26%. So we're down with our allocation, and that's what we're faced with. I think part of that is the valuations have gone up in Windham and Raymond, and that's a piece of it when they look at the school formula funding piece. Revenues, where do the revenues come from? In this pie chart, it just shows the local contribution, the state subsidies, everything from carryover, local debt. Again, it's just a pie graph to show people where the money comes from. And we appreciate the money that we get. Could be more, but that's okay. Again, I'm really proud of the results. I think we do have a very good value. I can't say enough about it. Every day something comes across my desk where I just want to put on my Twitter or whatever. It's just such great information. Maine Principals Association consistently has nominated the RSU 14 for good sportsmanship. I think we've had 6 or 7 of these in the last 3 or 4 years. So kudos to the boys varsity team. Windham Primary School, the Odyssey of the Mind team placed first at the Maine regional competition and second in the Maine state finals. We're on the national spotlight. Be the influence. Maggie Bradford and Danielle Mader from Windham High School had an opportunity with their leadership skills to attend the Anti-Drug Coalition in America, the National Leadership Forum in Washington, D.C. They visited Senator King and Senator Collins. So proud. Good work to each of them. Success for all. You know, you think about success for all, it's for every student, no matter who you are, what you bring from your home or from your learning in other districts. If you come to this district, our mission is success for all. An example of this is our Katahdin program. I'm just incredibly proud of those students and their staff. These are challenging learning opportunities for some of these students. And again, to the Katahdin staff, they took a trip to Florida. They had hoped to get to Cuba. They couldn't quite get there because of bad weather. But the fact is, these students, as part of a Tall Ships organization in Portland, helped work with the students to get to sail across the ocean and to really bond with the members of that ship and learn about sailing. And again, I strongly believe any opportunity we get students travel is life-changing. So this is an example of what we do in the RSU 14 for alternative ed students. It is also an opportunity. I talked earlier about our goals with our strategic plan and design for learning. And here's an example where the Discovering Water Project, we've talked about this before with Jeff Riddle and his students, but this is an opportunity for the students to actually publish this book. It was student-led the whole way. And it was a partnership with the Portland Water District and Windham High School. So again, the design for learning, strategic plan, goal number 1, that's evidence of that goal. Goal 2 in our strategic plan is about the environment for learning. I talked about that earlier. And yes, indeed, our food lunch program is very much connected to this goal. And we very much believe that our food products should be nutritious for our students. Not only for them to have good food, but we're teaching them about what they should be eating and being healthy with. So again, the American Ed Board recently recognized efforts in excellence in school menu innovation and was very impressed with Wyndham Raymond School Nutrition Program. And they just recognized Jeannie, our school lunch director, for that. You know, the PDK poll that I showed earlier talked about how parents really value interpersonal skills. On this slide, it talks about the civil rights team at Jordan Small Middle School. In the week of January 29th to February 2nd, they had a week called No Name Calling Week. That's what interpersonal relationships is all about. It's the teaching of life. It's not all about academics. Career preparation, I talked about that. That's something that the community across the country really values. Eileen Pelletier, second grade class at Raymond Elementary School, won second place in the United States Crystal Growing Competition. Open to U.S. students of all ages, this competition is a STEM outreach program designed to encourage scientific literacy for students in kindergarten through high school. We talk about academic preparation, engagement, very important. Manchester Schools Writing Club is an after-school opportunity. The members call themselves the Typing Titans. Their teacher, Joanne Flagg Williams, says devoting time exclusively to writing enhances their identity as young writers by giving them the time and opportunity to create. This is a core piece in the district this year is the writing of our curriculum. We're really trying to beef that up. And I know you've heard a lot about this from Christine Hessler, and there will be more to come. Lastly, the Wyndham Middle School 8th grade participated in the Project Oceanology in Connecticut. The students conducted field research during the day and hands-on labs at night. Again, academic preparation, student engagement. So on behalf of FY19 budget, I just would like to summarize by saying that I think it's very much a reasonable budget. It's a budget that's not done yet. It's your budget after tonight. And again, for the public, we hope that you will follow us and feel free to give us a call or to attend any budget hearing throughout the season. And again, thank you so much for the good work with Dawn Davis and my administrative team and Stacy Webster. It's been a really good team this year, and we've worked really hard to bring in a reasonable budget at this point in time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sandy. Okay, as Sandy mentioned, we are now going to have each of our cost centers will be presenting. So we're going to begin tonight. We'll have additional presentations on Wednesday, the 21st, and then also next Wednesday, the 28th. So now we are breaking down each piece of the budget. And first on the agenda is Christine Hessler, which is the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Director.
Back again. Good evening, everybody. So tonight I have before you the budget that I am responsible for K-12. All content, all instruction, kind of the one house shopping deal. I get to go first tonight. So the school and mission of my department is to really support the district's strategic plan and to support staff with the tools and training they need to be successful for our students in K-12. So two specific areas, work in progress this year. I probably sound a little bit like a broken record because I do get to see you guys a lot. Number one is the writing, continued implementation of the units of study that Sandy spoke about a little bit earlier. This year has included grade levels getting together and doing some common scoring to ensure that we have fidelity of how we're grading our students, how we're working on a writing continuum so that students are accurately being scored and where they are in all genres of writing K through 8. We've also had we're having multiple meetings with 8th grade and 9th grade teachers. So making that transition from high school to high school writing a little bit smoother for students. This has been a really collaborative effort from the high school teachers reaching out to our 8th grade teachers. Lots of conversations. Actually, a lot of conversations in how do I place children who are going into high school, what level should they be at in their writing. So really clearing up that piece and helping students understand the level of writing in each of the genres that they need to be doing. What's been really nice about working with Melissa Bois, our in-house trainer on this, is that she's able to answer questions right as a grade level, so there's no lapse in understanding what we need to be doing. It also talks about the importance of the progression of writing, making sure that we don't miss any of those progressions because then students are behind, and how do we get them caught up in the genre of writing. So we're doing a lot of work in our writing program this year. The second big area of focus is our math improvement. Throughout the years, we've looked annual achievement report, and we noticed that our math scores are trending down. And so we have undergone a math audit. Unfortunately, we were snowed out last Monday. I was really looking forward for you to meet the gentleman from UMass Amherst, Dr. Michael Hayes, who's been coming in and working with us, and you'll be getting his report shortly. And we are going to have him back at the end of May and June so that he can share with you his findings and recommendations that he has for the RSU. But instead of waiting for him to have that piece done, we've already sprung into action, and we are actually fortunate to have Janie as part of our K-12 math committee right now, and so we are off and furiously working on this. And so we are evaluating curriculum, we're evaluating instruction, resources, time spent on mathematics. We were very fortunate Friday to have Mike Hayes with us, and he was able to share and do workshops with all middle school staff and then again with all elementary staff. So they actually got to do some math. He shared some of his findings, talked about some of the philosophies, and really dug down into what we need and how do we teach our students conceptual math and application rather than just skills. We are really good at teaching our skills, and we're finding our kids are imploding about 5th grade because there's so many skills. So these are the pieces that I am asking for, and I would love to answer any questions you might have. Marge?
And I don't know if this one's for you or if it's for Dawn. Most of mine are more for clarity, so I understand it. On page 14 of 84, lines. There's software. There's a decrease of 40,250. Is that the software you're talking about that got moved to technology? I think it's the 8th line down on page 15.
Right, and that says it's, if I can line it up, Marge.
Page 15 of 84.
Yes, that's what that would be.
That's that money there?
Yep.
Okay, great. And if we go down, 1, 2, 3, the fourth one down from there, is that the math coach? 47,175. It's a professional salary teacher.
Yeah.
I think that's where that one
Is
was.
that the new math coach?
Because that's salary.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to understand what I'm reading here. And I think I only have one more, Diane. So.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know, Dawn, maybe if you could get back to us on page 18 of 84, the very top line, it's not a big number, but again, it's Ed Tech fringe benefits. But it's there this year, and it's never been there before. It's 1,035. Just trying to figure what they are, so I understand it. And that might have. Oh, wait a minute.
What page say that was on?
That's on
Very
page
top,
18
right?
of 84, very top line.
I'm happy to, which I will, I'll answer this tomorrow, but a lot of times people have different life changes, right? So health insurance changes or their fringe benefits change because they're able to take advantage of them. So it's that sort of thing, but I'll make sure you get an answer for that.
It's just, it pops up frequently, and I just watched to make sure what I was reading. Then I had a question on the white pages, page 49 of 253. Up towards the top, down at the bottom of employee training development, if you go down below to safety care training,
Yes.
I think that's the only real addition there.
It is
What is
because
that?
it used to be paid for through special ed, and because safety care training is now considered a regular ed, Lisa had to take it out of her budget, and it needed to pop in mine.
Doesn't seem like very much.
Yes, point 2 is at the high school. It's actually, I believe, a stipend in position, working with students who are maybe behind in literacy skills and getting them connected with Odysseyware or another program to make sure they're all set.
Thank you. And then can you answer this? But I always get confused. The difference between an EdTech 2 and a 3, and why we're seeing an increase in 2 and a decrease in 3.
Because
Where's the current one at?
she is doing K-5 and trying to get into 8 as well. And so because we're making this large shift, she physically, I mean, there's no way one person can cover 8K through 9 with the sheer number of staff that we have. So we're looking to put another person in to work with just middle levels and 9th grade. Sort of like we did with Richie Vickers. He has both middle schools and support staff. It would be somebody who would be in Jordan Small, Wyndham Middle, focused on the middle level curriculum and those skills. And then being a bridge with Patty as we do professional development to lead all these pieces.
Okay. I don't want to hog the time here. I just have one more question. I've always been confused about what's the word I'm looking for? It was there, now it's gone. This isn't the right word. Pilots is the right word.
Yep.
Do we have any current pilots for anything going on right now?
We do not. We are fully implemented in units of study for writing. Math, we're looking at not even a pilot, but we're looking for, and this will be a really big workshop for you guys when we come down to the math part of, we obviously cannot implement a new curriculum resource with everybody on the same page as once, so we'll be starting with certain grade levels, and we'll lay out our entire plan for you right now, but there isn't anything. Today that the Department of Education released funds again for summer programming. They had extra funds, and the last 3 years we've been very lucky to pay for our Boost summer program through those funds. So I already started the application, so keep your fingers crossed. They get evaluated by the DOE, but we've been very fortunate to be able to have our boost teachers and breakfast paid for. So we'll write through that again and see if we can get that funded through the department instead of using our local fund. So
Terrific. The Special Education Director. Hello. So first, I'd just like to thank you for your year-long support of me. Many of you are at central office, and I appreciate the time that you take to stop in my office and always check on our folks, both our employees and our students. We have a number of them, so in student services. For those of you in the public, I'm responsible for students who get special ed services, 504 services, our English language learners, our homeless students, our nurses, and the Katahdin program, social workers, school psychologists, OTPT, speech. It all comes under me. If you don't know where to put it, just call me. I'll try to fix it. So I just wanted to thank you. And Christine mentioned that she and I have really done a lot of work together since I came on board, and I just appreciate so much our ability to work together to really provide seamless services to students across the district K-12. We are continuing. And then my site coordinators have met with their staff. Some meet weekly, some meet biweekly, to continue the professional development throughout the year so that we can be prepared to the best of our abilities for that audit next year. So it doesn't cost us anything other than I think I have to buy lunch for the DOE when they come down, but there's no cost really associated with it. I think a couple areas that we're looking at for next year really are just expanding where we are. So continuing to partner with Christine and expanding our opportunities for the engaged personal learning that Sandy spoke about earlier, and being able to really create a deeper understanding from our special education teachers as it relates to reading and writing instruction, and really getting at the really targeted skills. Both Karen, well, particularly Karen, but Lisa also have a lot of experience with like Linda Mood Bell and different programs. So we've been able to expand the skill sets of our teachers. The next thing we're going to continue, as I mentioned earlier, is the math. And then an area where we do have some work to grow is expanding our opportunities for our high school students who receive special education services, and being able to expand their post-secondary resources. And so every child with an IEP has, once they reach high school, has a post-secondary transition plan, which is really the, what are they going to do after high school? And right now that responsibility falls to all of our special education teachers, but we're sort of limited because the day is only so long, and being able to explore opportunities for students beyond what we already have in our toolbox is an area that we feel we could improve on. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I want to address that in just a second. The other part that we've looked at is really around technology integration. So while it's in Christine's budget with Richie and Natalie, students receiving special education services 504 ELL have had sort of a side benefit of being able to be included more and more in the regular education setting. I'm super excited because Richie is like a Google nerd, but he tolerates me too. And he and Natalie brought in the VR system the other day, which I was talking about like a year ago. So Christine and I got to play on it, and it was really fun. But the potential for, giving kids access. So, for example, if you're studying the Great Wall of China, instead of having an ed tech sitting next to you reading you the book about a Great Wall of China, you can put this VR system on and look down, and it was super cool. So, really excited about the work that we're going to do there. So in terms of if you want to follow me around for it, it's really fun. In terms of what I'm requesting in the budget lines, so again, I said I was in charge of nurses. So nursing services is one of those things you can't really do without. And so at Wyndham Primary School, I have 1 RN and 2 nurses assistants. And so just because of the increased number of students, particularly those with that are medically fragile or have higher medical needs that an RN has to address, we've had to add like a nurse's assistant. And so we actually had to put it in this year's budget. So I'm officially putting it in next year's budget. And though that person, they're available, for example, students skin their knee when at the playground, or you're outside at recess and you have an accident and you need to change your pants when you come in, or you got wet playing in the mud puddle. Those kids all get sent to the nurse's office. And so the nurse's assistants are able to sort of do that mild level triage and help students when they come in, runny noses, take temperatures, that sort of thing. We have a number of students who require insulin or have a seizure disorder, or, pretty heavy medication that really needs to be administered by the RN. So that's what the increase in the nursing service will do. And then the other request that we're asking for is the addition of a special education teacher. I think it's listed on my cover sheet as a transition coordinator down at the bottom. But really, we were house that was in Raymond. That actually closed, so we lost 6 students, but then we had Granite Bay move in, and we got 2, and then we have a number of foster families, and we're very lucky because we have really great foster families that they work with, but more often than not, the students that they're providing homes to come with IEPs. So we have had a number of students move in. I think the first week of January after vacation, I think we had 6 in 1 week move in. And then since then, we've had a couple more that are high needs. So
Commending you because last year at this time you had 477.
Yeah.
So that's to 519. That's we're a bump.
You want to do the math?
No.
You can round it.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
So as a district of about a little over 3,000 students, and we're looking at 519, that's roughly 1 out of every 6 students. How does that compare to the rest?
So our overall identification rate is 16%, and the state average is 16%. We have some schools that are higher, and then some schools that are lower that balance us out. I think we are probably the highest proportion in Raymond, and it's just because if you look at the individual school and count the number of students. But
I just want to know how we compared to the rest of the state.
Yeah, so we're dead even with the state average.
Can you also give me the numbers for ELO, English language?
ELO, I don't have it off the top of my head, Kate, but I think when we did the WIT, I think we were at 42.
How many CDS students you anticipate coming into the district?
I actually have that number. Hold on 1 second. Which is about average. The difference is out of those 30, we are going to observe 16 of them. And part of the reason why we're going to go observe them is because they've been identified as having high needs. So out of that 16, they're either in a special purpose preschool or where their placement is they have a one-on-one adult support.
So how do you budget for those if you haven't really you don't have all your information on
right. So we looked at, so if you look at my ed tech numbers, we had 6 ed tech 2s and 54 ed tech 3s last year. And so one of the people that we hired last year as an ed tech, she could get her ed tech 3 certification. It's actually a 2. So the 7 reflects the people that we have this year, and then we've had to increase that by 2. So to answer your question, again in May, once we have the CDS meetings and we do the kindergarten screening, I go through a similar process to the budget, and I pull all my site coordinators and coaches in, and we put every kid up on literally has their own sticky, and every teacher, and then we start to group kids and we figure out who do we know and how can they go together, and are we able to do as opposed to one-on-one, can we do them in a small group and that sort of thing. So
we've got a pretty good track record. We will have figured it out between now and then. The biggest unknown is the kids that move in that we can't plan for. But for the CDS, I have to commend the Wyndham primary school staff. They do an amazing job. So two of the kiddos that are coming in are from Raymond. We know about them. They could have come last year. They were 676 kiddos, so that means they had a birthday that was later, so they could do one more year of CDS. One of them has a sibling, so we are familiar with the family, so both of those students will be at Wyndham Primary next year.
Perfect. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Oh, it's all over the place.
You know what?
It's all over the place. Yeah. We'll just start here and go around.
Yeah.
Yes, Dan. Margie, I'm going around.
Did you have your hand up? Everybody kind of raised. I didn't see. Yes, fine.
Oh,
Eric's.
Yep.
What page, Margie?
Page 99.
Page 99.
I was just curious, tuition to public schools, I was curious what public schools we would be sending special ed students to.
That's Raymond. So that's a Raymond school choice.
Okay, got you. Now, if we go to page 117, still the white pages.
Yep.
Is that also Raymond, where it says in the middle of the page?
No, so those are out-of-district tuitions.
Private school,
yep.
K through 8?
Yep, so we have students, so we budgeted $75,000 for an out-of-district placement.
Going to focus mostly on the front page.
Okay. Yeah. The front being the numbers?
Yes, the FTEs.
Yep.
All right, so it looks like we've got a net increase of about 5, a little over 5 in terms of FTEs. But I looked and there's changes in like 12 different categories. So is some of this reallocation of titles or
That's
responsibilities?
Correct. Yeah.
Like I'm wondering what kind of impact there is to personnel. Do we take personnel that might be cross-trained or whatever and put them into different roles as the need arises? Or
so there's a couple, Pete, to answer your question. So one of the things that we had to do last year was align the special ed teacher codes for 2100, 2200, 2300 to be in line with the DOE. And so that's what a lot of that is.
Yeah, like there's a self-contained teacher. We're going from 6 to 4, but then
it really should be 5.
Our special ed teachers going from 6 to 8. So is that just?
Yeah, it's reallocation using 2100, 2200, or 2300. Where before, so like that's for an example, like there was a life skills teacher. Yours shows 0 and then it shows 1. It really should, and when you get your revised budget, that title shouldn't be on there. So we'll move. So that's Connor McNeil, who oversees the Bridges program. So he'll actually be down under the self-contained, and that number will be 5.
Right.
So that reflects the staff that we currently have with the increase of the 2 ed techs.
All right, and then you were asking for additional nursing help. The LPNs are unchanged. The nurse numbers are unchanged. There's a half of a FTE increase in health aid.
Yeah.
Are you asking for just a half of an FTE?
Yeah, so that's really the position that I spoke of that we actually had to hire for this year because of the student need. So it went before there was just and I don't know how this all works out in days, but or hours. I have to defer to Stacy for that. But basically, what we needed to do was it was the equivalent of a 0.5 person to account for the hours that person's working for us.
All right, and then my last question. So your budget is going up close to 8%. 620,000 represents a pretty big chunk of the $2 million plus increase that the total budget's going up. Is it? Without having gone through line by line, is it pretty much the 5 additional FTEs and the placement, the increase in placement costs?
That's essentially it, yeah. There were salaries and benefits that I didn't have any control over in terms of where people fell on the new contract. And
increase to your positions. You know what I mean? Because from your cover sheet, it looks like we really just had 1.5.
So that's the fallacy of this report in some regards, which is this report is a snapshot in time from where on both columns.
So it was in last year's budget?
It was a request in last year's budget. This was what was in the budget prior to the request for those proposals last year. So an easy example would be the Wyndham Primary School. If you went to that, you'll see now that there's 2 administrators, and it shows 1. Well, you approved that, remember? Yeah. So it's just in the cycle of how it is presented to you, because it's a snapshot at the same time frame a year ago.
In other words, we approved, for your example, the assistant after we already voted on the budget and was an addition?
In that case you did, but you may have also have approved a position not through your contingency that would also show that way. So I'm noticing some of this that might need explanation as we go through, and I'll try to get sort of my head around that so that when people ask questions I can share what I know about them.
So Diane, I don't know if your question got answered, but if I need to
they
reword
weren't exactly
it differently.
new positions.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like Fergus figures stuff. It's in there.
It's in there, right. And I wouldn't ask for it if I didn't need it.
That leads to a question I wouldn't have had, but now I have it. Is when we met before and we went over version 3, 3 of the increases were 3 ed techs for Lisa. So I
cost center that has human resource flexibility is special services, because it follows the client. And so we're not coming to you for all the things that happen in a school day relative to who moves in, who moves out, what services they need. So this is just a particularly difficult one, although I think we do a good job tracking it, that I can see where this would be more difficult than a standard school. Yeah.
So I think if I can answer your question, Margie, so like we had, after the budget got approved last year, we had 2 new students moved in, pretty significant needs, and we had to hire ed techs to work with them. I know that many of you are in our schools and know our students, and I do appreciate the time. And for those of you that came to Unified Basketball this year, I really appreciate your attendance at the game. It meant a lot to the kids. So thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
I have had a request for a 5-minute recess. Would you like to take a recess?
I endorse that.
You endorse that? Okay. All those in favor? Great. So we are going to recess for 5 minutes.
Hello. Oh, we're not done.
Okay, we are returning now to our cost center presentations. Next, we have Danielle Benini from the Manchester School. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. It's nice to see you all. Mine will be short and sweet tonight. Our Manchester school budget shows its commitment to, as Sandy and Christine and everyone said, our strategic plan. So the two big focus areas, and we were only supposed to pick two, but if I had to pick three, I would have put writing right in there. But we have focused building on the work of prior years and really engaging students in the learning with an increased focus on cross-curricular, expeditionary, project-based learning, and not just for the sake of it's fun and engaging, but really with the focus on increasing student proficiency that is meaningful and sustained, the kind of things that kids remember forever, not just learn in a textbook and study for a quiz. So that has been our number one goal for the past 2 years, and last Friday we spent half the day doing that work, and it's been wonderful. And you'll get an invite to come to our community day where we do show off some of those community service and student-based projects, and we'd love to see you there. The second major goal has been around math, and we have been working very closely with Patty Righto, who's our math coach, and I'm excited to see, and I know when you're making changes, there's often an implementation dip in scores, so maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I'm excited to see the
get into the money. Is that all right?
Sure. You talk about it, yeah.
RES, yes, please. So there's really no major increases at RES. There are some adjustments. So right on that cover sheet, you might notice down on support staff that numbers are moving around. For 2 years, we had a part-time playground assistant position, and in that 2 years, we had, I think, 5 or 6 different people that did that, because they would do it for a while, and then they would have an opportunity to work more full-time, or they didn't particularly like it, or they moved into a more of an ed tech position, and so forth. So we've had difficulty, filling that and maintaining that. So with Mr. Davis's help, we kind of morphed a few positions together. So there's a slight increase in support staff within ed tech, and we changed the job description.
All right, well, that is the end of our presentations for this evening. Again, join us on Wednesday, the 21st, where we will continue our cost center presentations. And if I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? And it is unanimous. We are adjourned.